I still recall that the day I purchased the property was meant to be the start of something lovely, building blocks for a lifetime of memories, protected by trust. Or at least, that's what I believed. It was a magnificent house, tucked away, in one of the best areas of the city. Grand arched entrances, smooth marble floors, expansive windows that let in the golden light of every sunrise. I stood at the entrance, tracing my fingers across the nameplate, Nathan and Lillian Collins. Lillian was thrilled that we had succeeded. She spun around in the deserted rooms, picturing color palettes, furniture arrangements, the dinner parties she would host. "This is our castle, Nathan. The place where we'll spend our golden years together." Her enthusiasm was contagious. I remember standing on the terrace, gazing at the metropolitan skyline, feeling like the luckiest man alive. I kissed her forehead, believing that our life was picture perfect. We had the kind of love people admired, the kind they aspired to. We met at a charity banquet 5 years ago. I was enthralled by her confidence, her laughter, the way she changed. My life after that one fortuitous encounter, our wedding, it was as ambitious, as stylish, as breathtaking as she was. A destination ceremony in Santorini, white roses, flickering candlelight, an orchestra playing as we danced under the stars. We had vowed to build a future together, a future that meant security, partnership, and love that could withstand anything. And I worked. I worked tirelessly to make sure my real estate business flourished. It grew beyond what I had ever imagined. Luxury homes, high-end clients. The kind of money that meant Lillian never had to want for anything. If she dreamed of a weekend getaway, we were on the next flight out. If she wanted a designer bag, it was hers. I thought she deserved the best, and I wanted her to have it. Looking back now, I wonder, was I truly building a life with her, or was I just financing her dreams? At first, the changes were subtle. She got distracted during conversations. She became fixated on expensive jewelry, on high-end brands she never explained. I overlooked it. Because after all, what was money if she was happy? We had everything. A house that felt like a haven, exotic vacations, a marriage that looked perfect from the outside. People admired us. Friends shook their heads in amazement when I pulled up in my newest sports car, Lillian effortlessly glamorous in the passenger seat. I believed we had everything. The irony of life is that just when you think you're standing on solid ground, it reminds you how easily everything can crumble. Lillian's smiles no longer reached her eyes. The nights she spent on her phone, screen turned down, the events she attended with people I had never met. But love. Love blinds you. It convinces you that your suspicions are insecurities, that your doubts are paranoia. So I silenced the whispers in my head. She loved me, just as much as I loved her, or so I thought. Because if I had known what was coming, I would have never seen that house as a castle. I would have seen it for what it truly was, just another piece of real estate. An asset, something that could be bought, sold, or stolen. Because that's exactly what happened in the end. I had spent years building our dream life, and I was the only one dreaming. The warning signs were there. Subtle at first, small, but they were like scattered puzzle pieces. Pieces that only made sense when you stepped back to see the full picture. The problem was, I didn't want to see it until that night, a Tuesday. I remember it so clearly. I came home early, earlier than usual. My meetings had wrapped up ahead of schedule, so I decided to surprise Lillian. I picked up her favorite sushi from that high-end restaurant downtown, the one that required a reservation even for takeout. I wanted to see her smile. I wanted her eyes to light up the way they used to. But when I walked inside, she wasn't there. The house was empty. I checked the kitchen, the living room, the bedroom. And then I saw it. Her jewelry box, open, her phone, no missed calls, no texts. And when she finally came home hours later, her face flushed, her hair slightly tousled, her dress wrinkled from the wind, I knew. For a fraction of a second, she froze. She hadn't expected me to be there. "Oh," she said, letting her purse drop onto the couch. "You're home early." I forced a smile and held up the takeout bag. "Thought I'd surprise you." She hesitated, just for a moment. "Oh, I already ate." And that's when it hit me. I watched her walk past me into the kitchen. My wife, the woman I had built my world around, and I realized I didn't know her anymore. That was just the beginning. 6 months ago, she had joined an exclusive women's club. At first, I encouraged it, but soon those casual gatherings turned into late nights, weekend getaways, expensive dinners at five-star hotels, and then there was Marcus. I met him at a charity gala. A tall, polished investor. The kind of man who never had to struggle for anything. The kind of man who walked through life like he owned it. Lillian introduced him with a radiant smile. She laughed at his jokes, lingered, on his arm a little too long. I should have seen it then. I should have pulled her aside and asked, "What the hell is going on?" But I didn't. I let her kiss my cheek. I told myself I was being paranoid, that she wouldn't betray me. And yet, she did. That weekend, I was set to close the biggest real estate deal of my career, a deal that would make me untouchable. But none of that mattered the moment I pulled up to my house and saw the security guard standing at the gate. My gate. My house. I stepped forward, ready to punch in my access code, but the guard, a broad-shouldered man in his late 40s, moved in front of me. "I'm sorry, sir," he said, voice firm. "You're not authorized to enter." I blinked, laughed even. "You must be mistaken. I own this house." The guard didn't flinch. "I have strict instructions from the homeowner. You are not permitted inside." My stomach turned to ice. And then I saw them, through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Lillian, sitting on my couch, holding a glass of champagne. Marcus, next to her, his arm draped over the back of the sofa, a smirk playing on his lips. And then she looked at me and she smiled, not a smile of guilt, not regret, just satisfaction. She lifted her glass. Marcus clinked his against hers. And in that moment, I realized what had happened. They had taken everything. But what they didn't know was that I wasn't broken. No, I was just getting started. "And Nathan?" I smiled. "But just don't do anything careless, no matter what." I had a dream about it, but I was lying since I had to see something for myself. I put on a dark sweatshirt and rode in a taxi to return to my former area. The security guard from the previous evening had left, most likely because they believed I would not return. I remained in the shadows as I made my way to the edge of my property, where I could see Marcus since the curtains were open. Lillian sat on the couch, arms crossed, pacing, his phone clamped to his ear, his features straining with irritation. With a pinched expression, I could tell that something was amiss, and they understood it without a word. Even through the glass, Marcus's voice was rising as he made frantic gestures. When Lillian attempted to speak, he interrupted her, his mouth clenched in irritation. She was beginning to realize that she wasn't who she believed she was, so I grinned as she unraveled. She believed she was on par with Marcus when she was in charge, but she was simply another pawn. I took out my phone and messaged Jake, the private investigator, asking him to come grab the tapes. Jake was already ahead of schedule. My heart was racing with excitement because Marcus and Lillian had no idea how much they would adore this. When they discovered that the chat was being filmed, it was too late, so I departed before anyone could see me. I was immediately returning to the hotel, and when I got there, my phone buzzed with a message from Victor. "Victor, we received it. Authorities have prevented the sale of their frozen homes after a court injunction was obtained. I let out a breath and experienced my first genuine sense of fulfillment. Ideal. Let them learn the hard way, and that's precisely what transpired. The following morning, at precisely 9 o'clock, Marcus and Lillian awoke to a financial nightmare. Their bank accounts and credit cards stopped functioning, offshore transfers were prevented, and most importantly, the home itself was out of their reach. When they realized that what they had taken from me was legally mine once more, they understood they hadn't won. Instead, they had walked directly into a trap, and they would quickly discover how deep it was. I didn't have to wait long. At 11 a.m., my hotel door was frantically knocked on. I took my time. I smoothed out my cuffs, straightened my suit, exhaled slowly, and walked to the door. Lillian and Marcus stood there, pale, trembling. Lillian's lips quivered. "Please, Nathan, we need to discuss this," she whispered. Marcus appeared to be about to get sick. They froze our... I leaned against the door frame, arms crossed. "Since there is an arrest warrant and you could lose everything," I tilted my head. "Oh, you mean my home? My finances? My life, which you tried to take?" They stumbled and begged. I watched them for a moment, taking in the despair. Then I grinned. "Come in." Putting that aside, they still believed they had a chance, that I was going to help them. They had no idea.